School board meeting to order. So we're recording. So if we would please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I forget we got a. Okay, let's kick in the gear here. First off, for our early items, our celebrating student success. I understand we have Brett Nolte and it looks like Aaliyah Murrow with us. If you wouldn't mind maybe taking the podium and the microphone, just so we can all hear you. It's on the podium there.
Is that good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So hi, as you announced me, my name is Brent Nolte, and I'm the president for the class of 2024.
And then I'm the vice president for the class of 2024.
And this year I was granted the responsibility of running the high school blood drives, one in the fall, one in the spring. And we just had one October 27th. And this event spanned from like 8 a.m. to about 2 p.m. And we had most of the leadership class help out with like grabbing people from classes, or they're called blood buddies, where like you help the person giving blood, you know, kind of just like through the process and everything like that. And while we were like planning it, we had a goal of reaching about 35 pints of blood to donate. And we ended up surpassing that goal with 42 pints. So pretty good. And then each pint of blood usually goes to about 2 to 3 different donors, I guess, or donation
Recipients.
Yes, recipient. Thank you. So that's about like 100-ish people that could have like received these blood donations. So we're pretty proud of that. Pretty good. And the reason kind of why we set up these blood drives is because obviously they're helping save the lives of people who need these transfusions to live. And we've kind of done it for like years now. So it's kind of more of like a ritual now. Tradition, yeah. And the support from the high schoolers was so great that we had a lot of kids signed up, kind of more than we can handle. So on top of that, we also had a lot of students who walked in wanting to donate, even though we were full. And it just kind of goes to show how like exciting and willing the students were to like donate the blood. So, I mean, pretty good. And even though we are one of like the smaller schools in Southern Oregon, there's like obviously smaller, but like big ones like South Medford, North Medford, Grants Pass and stuff like that. Even though we're kind of smaller than them, we actually still really run one of the biggest blood drives in our region. We're like top, like I think it's like 2 or 3 or something like that. So we usually do pretty good. So we kind of pride ourselves on that. And then we finally cannot wait to run the next blood drive this year, or next year, April 27th. It's a Thursday. So if any students 16 or older or adults, staff members want to donate, you can always email me at brentn24 at Brookings.k12.or.us.
Moving on from the blood drive, like you said before, really proud of that. We did a really good job and we're hoping for the next one to be even better. Our leadership class is now moving on to holiday activities. So this season, we're going to do our annual gift shopping for different families in the school district who might be struggling during the Christmas time because it's Christmas. We're also gift shopping, or our last big event that we're going to do during the holiday season is our annual cherry tree program. And this is when our leadership class decorates a Christmas tree and auctions it off for charity. So Christmas time is going to be pretty busy for us, but we're really excited because we have really fun during that time. And like we said before, we can't wait for the next blood drive and we're just excited for the rest of the year.
A question for you. No, it's more of a comment. I was a recipient of blood when I had my daughter in 1987. I had placenta previa and it abrupted and I bled on myself to death. The human body has 6 units of blood, 19 to 1. And I am luckily AB positive. I'm a universal recipient. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be here today. So blood drives are really important.
Yeah, definitely.
When is your next one?
It's April 27th.
Mr. Marshall signing up right now.
Yeah, they got me last year.
Yep.
Is there any other comments or questions?
Great job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the hard work. All right, next up is our regular student representative, Mr. Brian Walker. What kind of report do you have?
All right. Okay, there we go. So I apologize for missing last meeting, and I was writing essay, so I don't really have much. I didn't really have much from last report. All I have was that homecoming was a success. Pep rally went as expected. We had our homecoming court crowned at the track during homecoming game. The parade was super fun. We saw a lot of people, and that was just fun in general for everyone. Let's see. I was trying to get in contact with the principals from K school and the middle school and try and get some information about them too, trying to expand where I'm getting what's going on in our schools as student wise. And I did not hear back from them today. They emailed them. So I hope for our next meeting that I will have, I don't know, maybe something a little bit more apart from the high school. And as far as executive meetings, we haven't had any yet because many of us, including these guys over here, are in NHS, and we had to plan for our fundraising for the bazaar that just happened this Saturday. So we weren't able to attend the executive meetings, but we hope to change the NHS meeting so we could discuss important matters in the executive meeting. And for ASB, for ASB meetings and leadership, we are hoping to have our next one this end of the month. So I believe, I think we're going to try and have it tomorrow or not this next week, but the week after Thanksgiving break, and just discuss finances and other things dealing with the whole leadership class in general. And that's all I have for you guys today.
All right, thank you, Brian. Jay's going to close the door so we can maybe cut out the basketball practice noise there. Yes, but thank you guys. Yeah. All right, next up for the board, we have our consent agenda. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All right, thanks, Catherine. We got you on there.
Can I get the names of those people? I don't recognize the voices right away right now.
Sure. So Janice made the motion and
Thank you.
Catherine seconded it.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I should have announced that Heather, our temporary board secretary, is with us online, so she'll be asking all the important questions to keep us in line. So thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll go to the phone first. Catherine for a vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Janelle?
Yes.
Janice?
Aye.
Jay?
Yes.
And then I from Alan. Okay, district reports and information. This is the comments for our superintendent. So Mr. Marshall.
All right, thank you. I have 4 things this evening. First, the one that has the bullet is just a quick update on been meeting very regularly with fire chief, police chief, and Lieutenant Dotson. And we've been, most of our recent times been focused on reunification plans and sites. That was probably the area or the biggest area in our current plan that really was not workable. It had to give me as a reunification site for the whole district, and that's not a viable space or a good location to do that, should we need to evacuate the schools for any reason. So we've been visiting sites and working on getting agreements with the different sites for the different schools. And so we're on the home stretch of that, as well as just reorganizing our emergency operations plan to be more in line with how emergency services organizes their plan, so that it's the same language and that sort of thing. So there's clear communication should, in the event of an emergency between district and emergency services. So we're on, I would say, the home stretch of the update, and then the next steps will obviously be doing the training and the communicating to the staff and the students on that. Any questions on the emergency plans update? And we're just back, I think, a number of, so Jay, Alan, and Janice and I were able to go to the OSBA conference in Portland. And we actually, Jay and Alan and I presented. And so I want to thank them very much for their efforts, and certainly got a lot of great feedback. So that we presented on the DLT process and kind of where it started, how it's evolving, and where we hope to be going with it, lessons learned. And so there was a lot of great questions at it. And I don't know if Jay and Alan want to add anything to that.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting for me to participate in it. Glad I did. I also got, gosh, at least 3 or 4 comments either that evening or the next day about participants that were there and appreciated it. I think we're pretty honest about, kind of where we started, the fact we had a couple hiccups and some pauses along the way, and the fact that we wished we, in hindsight, hadn't taken that year and a half kind of break of it in the middle there. But no, I thought it was pretty positive and kind of exciting to get our district name out there maybe a little bit and participate a little bit more. So, I don't know, anything else you thought about it?
And we told Steve Kelly that we're gonna get a commission from him for any further districts that sign up for that service.
Yeah, sure.
So great conference, and actually, so one of the underlying themes, and actually this was a theme at the Southern Conference as well, is essentially the challenges and the need and the value of input and community input and voice, and how to we can't just be passive about saying, okay, we're going to put a survey out, please just tell us the information. And so I think that's going to be some follow-up conversations as a board. One of the specific things that I'm going to work on rolling out, and I want to get started right after the holidays, is a student superintendent advisory group. And so have student representatives, probably include Brian there as part of that. He might actually help with that. But probably starting, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade, and having students kind of representative from each of the schools, and having that be essentially one avenue for them to have direct input and considerations, and just also giving me the direct connection and feedback. I mean, Brian's comment a month or 2 ago about the online education system. I mean, that's the kind of comments that's like, okay, this is very valuable information of like, it works okay, but it's really not engaging. And so having that information as we make decisions relevant to that will help us make better, more informed decisions. And so really looking at being intentional of incorporating the student voice as part of our work. And then lastly, as we're, I mean, it's very early to start looking forward to future calendars, but I do want to just kind of, I guess, plant the seed or put it out there for future conversation and questions. Is one of the things that it feels like we're really struggling with the work that we're doing is time. Is that essentially professional development and time for teachers to collaboratively work together to do the improvement that we're asking, whether that's social emotional supports, academic supports, any of those things. And so but realizing that that's also a big ask and a big consideration. So it's just, are there creative ways that we can consider finding a little bit more time for the staff to work together, because right now there's not enough to be brought in terms of that. Yes, we've got basically the Wednesday early releases. There was one professional development day, but that 2 hours a week, while granted it is a substantial amount of time, and we need to be committed to making sure we're maximizing that with the work that we need to do, that's kind of the question before us. And so certainly would invite kind of future questions or comments regarding that. And so, what might the options be, just so that we can, make sure we're supporting the staff so that we can expect them to do that work that we need to have done.
How might that, is the right time or not? Just kind of question, is that more scheduled non-student time then, or how's that?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, that's what you're looking at, and how might you do it? I mean, it can be something as simple as, Wednesday, maybe 30 minutes earlier to buy some more time in that respect. I know that, some districts, that's how they use, like, they'll do the 4-day week.
Mhm.
And then periodically, a lot of those, the Fridays or the Mondays or whatever day they're not, those blocks of time are used for that purpose. And so it's pretty open-ended. It just is, we're really getting to a point that it's becoming very pronounced with both, I would say, especially the academic and the social emotional work that we're asking the folks to do. That takes time to do that work well, and you can make an impact and a difference. So.
I guess my comment would be that for an ask, taking away time from kids, I'd really like to see what the ask is of those individuals,
Absolutely.
so that we have a better idea of the demand.
Yes.
Trust that you're saying,
Oh, no, I agree. That's why I'm, November's a great time to start that. So now we've got time here.
My brain went through, does that mean you need to expand teacher hours without students, keep the same student time, but add another X hours for
There are
teacher
hours.
time? That's a budget issue now, right? So.
Yeah, there's a number of different approaches that can be considered. And so that's why I wanted to just start the conversation while we have the ability to consider it for the subsequent school year. By February or March, it's too late to say, what can we do? Because we're really needing to figure out a calendar. And so that's why I'd like to know those questions of what questions do you have when I make that statement? I understand you're not questioning that, well, we don't need the time. It's like, what specifically is asked? Because I know you're going to be asked that from the community. If they're saying, you want them out a half an hour earlier, why? We should be able to articulate exactly why and what we want to accomplish with that time. So yeah, that's exactly why I'm asking you for the input in the conversation and what might be some other options and that sort of thing.
Is the time on Wednesday right now used for things other than professional development? Or is every Wednesday used for professional development?
So the time, it's essentially a rotating schedule of, there's some staff meeting time, there's professional development time, and there's it's called PLC, professional learning, it's teacher collaborative time. So they will actually, that's the time where they're getting together and saying, here's my third grade reading scores for these last units. Everyone compares notes, and then you work on, okay, who needs this help? What are some things we need to do in response? It's essentially, it comes back to the 4 questions of, related to what do we want the kids to know or be able to do? So that's the instructional piece. How will we know if they learned it? So that's the assessment piece. What will we do if they didn't? And what will we do to extend their learning if they did? And so that's the work that's, I think, at least 2 of the Wednesdays is that work. And so it's by subject, particularly at the secondary level. So the math department will get together. And then, so there's also essentially a vertical. So like the math department for all the grades, and then also horizontal. So like 3rd grade is all the 3rd grade. And so those kind of rotate through. And again, it's a
How
struggle.
much professional development is happening on Wednesday?
Must be 2 hours.
Every Wednesday, 2 hours of professional.
It's not professional development. That's part of what it's used for.
My question is, how much professional development specifically during those Wednesdays? Is it like 1 Wednesday a month?
I would say yes, that's probably pretty consistent across the buildings. They each have their own kind of rotational schedule. The other part of it is it's generally not exclusively one or the other. So meaning that it might be like, okay, here's our professional question, and then they would go off, the teachers, and do that work and do the data analysis and then the planning of here's what interventions and supports we're going to provide the students.
Do we have essentially like subject specific leads? Like, is there a math lead? And what training do we provide them in that leading capacity?
Historically, I don't think specifically a lot direct. We have, and a lot of those leads now are the ones who went to the professional learning conference that we did in the summer. And so that was partially intended to be that catalyst of this is helping to define that work and what that work looks like.
Yeah, I think I just feel like a lot of times it's Ready, Fire, Aim, and we spend a lot of time on the what and not how for a lot of the individuals who are expected to lead these groups. And so I don't know if maybe we look at putting some professional development around that for them specifically.
Supporting the team leads.
Right,
Absolutely.
or giving them more to task.
Yep.
But you're also advocating for more time for professional development.
It's more time to do the collaborative work.
See,
Yeah, and so it's not just kind of like I'm going to a training. Because I think that we've got some other, other avenues to do, and even like we did a bunch this summer. It's more that ongoing work of coming together as a team and saying, here's the work we need to do, the specific standards that are priority standards that we need to teach. Here's how we're going to measure it. Here's what we're going to do in response. Was it 2 kids? Was it just Brian who got it, or was it the whole class who got it? And we're going to vary our response based on that. And so if it's just one student, who maybe was struggling, you work with that one student. If a whole bunch of them didn't get it, well, then we're probably going to reteach the lesson. And so, but you've got to know that. And the other underlying part of it is this is very much not individual teacher work. This is collaborative teamwork. And that's, to me, and that was the big takeaway from the conference as well, is that's where the power of it is, we're historically, you go in your classroom and you go teach, and you might have some really amazing teachers, you may not. By coming together, that really allows, it kind of raises the baseline overall. And teachers can learn from each other. And that's really the goal that we get to, is like, well, Janice, how did you get the kids to, understand that concept? My kids didn't. And so you can even come over and say, well, here's what I did, or let me show you. And that's our goal. That's what we're working towards. We're still kind of early in that journey, I would say. But noted, so lead training and systematizing that, and then identifying specifically what are we doing now?
Yeah.
What's the schedule? What's that? And what might the ask very specifically be like? So what would you get more of?
Yeah, and I'd also just put it out that maybe we also need to identify how we can measure the impact that it has. So I don't know what we can do to do that, but it's nice if we can say, hey, we're doing this, but we can see that this trend is affecting X. And obviously the outcome would be student success and things of that nature. But and maybe that's a team lead thing that they need to produce in terms of to you what.
Why we don't do this, return X.
This is what we're accomplishing. This is what we're discussing. A quick little.
That was part of as our initial conversations with the Guiding Coalition was exactly that, is where's that balance of just that sort of check-in sheet of here's what we accomplished during this time, and just so that we can kind of a gentle accountability, I would say, is like we're expected to use this time for maximum benefit.
That's the underlying thing.
This is not just kind of hanging out, socializing, or even individual lesson planning. This is very intentional time that that is very high value time to be able to come together, and making sure it's a big responsibility to make sure that's what's happening. So right now, I know we haven't yet implemented. We've been talking about it, but haven't implemented in terms of like district-wide, that sort of summary sheet of here's what my math department did. But that's the direction that we're going. So we'd have that. But again, you don't want it to be just filling out and sending in to the principal sort of stuff. It should be just a quick capture of the work going on. As well as I know that the principals are out and they're very intentional about rotating through those groups to help support those groups. So they are not in their offices during that time. they're out participating and engaging with that work. Now there's only a handful of them, so they can't be everywhere at once, but they're, that's the expectation. They're all doing that, and really directly working to help support that process. Yes. Yes. Other questions?
Just very cautious, because generally, once we give something up, we very rarely get it back.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So obviously the return would be
Exactly.
improvement in that respect,
Feel good about the.
given more time, and how is that time going to be used to benefit the kids?
Okay, anything else for Mr. Marshall? Finishing up item number 6 here, anything from the board on the included district reports, finance reports, or enrollment summary? I'll ask as one. Okay. I just realized I failed to verbalize the citizen input section. I kind of checked it off because I did not receive any here tonight, but I don't believe we have any citizen input, or I at least want to make the announcement that we didn't totally blow it off, but I apologize for getting out of order. But nothing in that row. Maybe I was gonna say, take it off to the superintendent, yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing that last comment.
Oh, Janice just said that she was approached by a parent with a concern about a student, and I think we suggested that she take that offline to the superintendent.
Thank you.
I will do that.
Okay, so sorry for getting out of order, but item number 7, action items. We have 2 things here. Kind of group A is a group of second read policies. And I always like just to, for my own purposes perhaps, but remind myself that this is the group that we had last month, that we, I think, talked a couple things through and moved them to a second read. So here we have them. And this was, again, the highly recommended, or at least the most highly recommended grouping from OSBA's policy review that came through. So I would like to suggest a movement to approve this group of second read policies.
Looking for a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the second policy. That was Janine.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Catherine. Any questions or discussion on this second read grouping? Okay, here are nothing there. I'll go to Catherine first for a vote.
Aye.
Janelle?
Yes.
Denise?
Aye.
Jay?
Yes.
And then an I from Alan as well. And then the next group, group B here, is a group of first reads, and we tackled these at our last work session. There generally were, if I recall, the discussion, language updates, a couple law updates, if I remember right. Nothing terribly significant was the gist of our conversation a couple weeks ago. Is that accurate?
Nothing specific that represents like a change in practice from what we're doing. So it's just clarifications and updates to law.
So the work session, for those that weren't there were a couple that we had a couple questions about and we discussed, but ultimately, seemed reasonable and fine. So.
I know, is it possible to get these in color? It would be so much easier to read this. You guys not have a copy?
It is likely possible that we can get them to in color. Yeah, I know, especially the highlights.
The highlights.
These pages specifically.
Difficult.
Yeah.
So at least those pages.
Yeah.
Color.
I mean, I don't need your logo and all that,
Right.
but when we're doing like the changes,
Okay.
The additions and the highlights.
Policy page, yeah, because it's like 5 times per page more per color, but just the policy pages.
yeah, I'm just thinking, I don't know if anyone, no, last week we were struggling with.
Right.
And even though they already went through it, it just makes it a quick read if it's colored.
Yeah. Noted. I mean, Heather, you're gonna print it remotely in color, right?
Absolutely. To the two ladies on the board, can you speak up just a little bit or lean into your mic when you're speaking? I want to be able to hear your comments. Thank you.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve this group of first readings?
Second. Motion.
Okay, so Janelle makes a motion.
And I was second, Denise was second.
Thank you, Janice. Any further discussion or questions on the motion to approve the first read? All right. Oh, sorry.
If we have questions about a particular policy, should we just bring those up individually? As opposed to in this meeting, like during the first reads?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it at any time. You can, just the first read doesn't formally do anything. So before the next one saying, I'd like to pull this one out and talk about it or have more questions about it.
Okay.
Yeah, workshop in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Actually, we're not gonna have that.
I would like
We'll have that.
clarification on the DBEA. It establishes an educational equity advisory committee. That a committee of adults or a committee of students? That's on page 115.
Yeah, this is the workshop one, or isn't it?
I was there, but I don't remember.
I don't know.
Don't we have like?
Yes, that was one where the conversation was, and my recommendation was, let's, that's one we can table and come back to because it changes the composition of
The budget maybe.
the budget committee. And yes, and those sorts of things. And that right now we're concerned about the capacity to do that. And so it's just looking at just taking some more time. It's not required to have it in place for now or the.
I understand that it's not required, but.
Yeah.
Again, my question, is it an adult committee or a students committee?
It's undefined, so it can be in that respect, whatever we want it to be.
Well, especially if it's a student committee, I think we should do it sooner than later.
Well, and there actually, isn't there, haven't you started that, a group like that at the high school?
So we have the executive committee, which is just like the leaders of just the high school. So like Aaliyah, I apologize, like Brent and Aaliyah, advisors like that. So the vice president and the president of all 4 classes, and including the ASB president, me and the vice president. And we just come together and we collectively gather information from students and their concerns. And then us as a executive governing branch, we find ways as us as a group to see how we can improve these concerns they have or fix problems that potentially are causing some kind of discomfort or negativity that they don't want.
And do you interact with the correct here, less popular students?
Haven't really gone into contacting the students yet. This next meeting we are planning to get in contact with those less popular students. And to me, honestly, that is my focus because again, everyone deserves a voice.
Representatives.
Yes.
Underrepresented.
Very strong.
Well, and that, so that might be rather than necessarily saying we're going to have a separate student committee, it's saying we'd like leadership to take this question on. And so that might be the avenue there and working with an existing group to pay for. Maybe it is something that that says, let's have a separate group of students to engage in this specific conversation. I guess, and I have to, I know that when Ms. Nye was vice principal at the high school, she was in the process of starting an advisory group. And I want to say it was specifically around those questions. I don't know if it had been continued when she shifted over to the middle school or not. So I can follow up on that.
I just feel like putting it off because we can't get enough budget members.
Well, we don't have to put off everything. It's just the specific formal action. If the board can say, we want to engage in this work, or we want you to engage in this work, it just doesn't necessarily have to be directly connected to this policy and then the resulting changes. And so, but that can also help kickstart that as well. It's like, if we already got that rolling, then it's just one more piece, then you're implementing the policy. So it's like, there's not a need to do the policy now, but if you want to extract and say, how are we going to move forward in this area? That's an awesome conversation.
Okay, well, that's a conversation I would like to have.
All right, so we got a
I
little,
don't need to do that tonight, though. That's what you're saying, right?
got a little off topic. We did have a motion and a
Yes.
second to approve these first readings. So assuming we're still good with that, let's go ahead for a vote on the motion on the table then. So Catherine,
Aye.
Janelle,
Yes.
Janice,
Hi,
Jay,
I,
okay, and then an aye from Alan as well. Okay, board functions and comments, item number 8, OSBA regional election vote. And I might have to ask Heather or David, kind of give us the lowdown on this ask.
So.
Go ahead.
So my understanding is it's an option of whether the board chooses to vote, and if they do, we have to capture that and we submit that to OSBA.
to vote on the
Regional
nomination.
officers.
A
yeah.
regional officer, and I believe the only nominee right now is what I see here,
Jacqueline Crook.
Jacqueline Crook. Yeah,
Yes.
she's been in that capacity already, serving our region on the OSBA board.
Yes, and she's on the South Coast ESD board. Yeah,
Yes,
So it's
Correct.
really like your ballot with one person on it, there's really no.
pretty much.
but the representative for school boards in our region is an ESD member?
on the board.
Ours is as well in Multnomah, in Region 17. One of my ESD board members is on the OSBA school board.
I understand the tie-in. But a lot of times it feels like that the individuals that represent our region in that capacity are oftentimes just an extension of ODE, passing down more, and do we want?
Sounds like a campaign.
No, I'm just saying, it sounds,
They're not independently represented.
the school, and so, and I don't know, it feels like a funny connection. I understand the connection. But
I think in this instance, it's just a question of getting regional school board members to run for the regional OSBA offices.
Is it annual? Or is it
Heather, do you know the officer terms? I don't know off the top of my head.
I believe it's 2, I think they do 2 years.
Yeah,
I need to double check. It might be 4, but I need to double check. I know I've got one right now that is on the board, but I can't remember if she took someone's place. We just reelected her last night. And she's the only one running in that region.
So I guess the question is, does our school board want to effectively vote for Jacqueline to represent our district? Our region in OSBA.
She's the only one in our region that's.
She's the only nominee as far as I can
so-
see. Yeah.
So either a yes vote or an
Or
abstain.
abstain, I guess, yeah. So it's kind of a vote of support for her or a vote of silence, I guess. I don't know if I have a real strong position personally. I happen to know Jackie a bit, and I think she's a good person and think she's strong ties to our local area down here, Pistol River and all the Crook family, but yeah, she's one of the original settlers,
No crooks, huh?
one of the original Crooks. So, put it that way. No offense, Jacqueline, if you're listening. So what do we think? Do we want to make it official and vote for her or hold off, I guess?
Well, I would support her.
So is that a motion to,
We need a motion.
I believe
Okay, I'll
so.
make a motion that we support Jacqueline Crook as the board candidate for OSBA.
I'll second that.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. That's Janice made the motion, Heather, and Catherine.
Thank
second.
you.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? Okay. They'll go to the phones then for a vote. Catherine,
Yay.
Janelle,
Yes.
Janice,
I,
Jay,
I'll abstain.
okay. And I will vote yes for Alan. So I think we passed that one, so thank you.
I have a quick question. So there's also, unless you were getting to this and I just, jumped in and there's also an OSBA and during this election cycle, there's also the legislative priorities that we're voting on. And I'm not seeing it on here, but if you were going to bring that up, I'm sorry for jumping in.
You know, I didn't have it on my agenda either, to tell you the truth, but I do see it in the packet here.
And that's something that the board also needs to approve and then, or not. And then I'll enter the stuff in with OSBA.
Bigger question.
So again, the question here is does our school want to support this list of legislative priorities?
and the 146, 147,
Yeah,
and 148, 149.
yeah, 1, 2, 3 pages, 3, 4 pages.
Heather, you know if this needs to be done this month?
I believe it has to be done by December 15th, so we could do it in December at the 14th meeting, and then I can record it that night. So you do have another month to take care of this.
Yeah, technically we have time to do this before our next regular meeting.
Absolutely.
Read it, I could highly doubt that us down here in Southern Oregon and Brookings actually support, have the same thought as OSB.
I am going to suggest right now then that the board table this tonight. I would like the board to read over this over the next couple of weeks and maybe let me know if there's any desire to include it in the next regular board meeting or not. I will default to including it unless maybe I get a couple thumbs downs from some board members along the way. Does that sound okay, Catherine, to you?
Like statewide, in general, statewide stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate us being given a little bit more time to review it.
Okay, so let's pull that from this night's activities. And likely or may see it next month then. Okay, what is next? The comment, I guess, that we still have some budget committee vacancies. That's still on our agenda here. So our application is December 9th for any new considerations for appointments. So anyone in the public that's out there listening, we need, looks like 3 more vacancies now that we lost Bruce. So we added to that list. Yeah.
Is Donna not still one of those?
Donna did, but Bruce, since he took a position with the district, resigned his budget committee position. So
Who are the 2 members? Donna?
I don't have the list in front of me.
Julie.
Julie, I can't remember who turned out. I think Julie's still on, I think, and Donna. Yeah, also I don't have it in front of me, so I hesitate to speak with any authority on that, but I think one of them perhaps term was up. In the limit.
I assume that we asked when they do term and they said. I was thinking like Alice and I'm trying to think of some others that have reached with them.
I think Alice turned out last time too. All right, we'll go bend some elbows, everybody. Get a couple folks in the next couple weeks. Next up, I think we talked a little bit about the OSBA convention. Anything else that anybody want to comment on? A few days we spent up there.
I just learned a lot.
I think I did too. Some couple good speakers and yeah, a lot of enthusiasm. So I kind of came with some newfound enthusiasm. That was nice.
One of the takeaways for me is it was very obvious that the term equity is a priority, is a part of every facet, it seems, of that convention. Yet the definitions or the manner in which equity was used was widely was spread across so many different ideas, and I think it's not going away. And I think what we should do in a workshop is define that term for our district, so that our staff and kids know what we mean when we speak of that word.
Yeah, that was one of the speakers spoke about equity and how it's kind of morphed in definition in the zeitgeist maybe a little bit, and how it maybe doesn't quite fit the needs that, you know.
Right.
So I kind of found that interesting concept too. But that's a good idea. Kind of what's it mean for us when we say that term. Yeah. Add it to the list of workshops, right?
Other than that, one thing is that OSBA is pushing to move in creating a rural schools, rural districts caucus to represent us in Salem with a budget, because there's been a lot of outcry and comments from the rural districts that they're not fully being represented. And so it'll be interesting to see how that takes off and the communication that's gained through that. It seemed very genuine. The conversations were, they were real.
And they're looking for members for their club.
And they are looking for members for that. So
Might have a volunteer.
I put your name in there, so I was waiting for that call for you.
As soon as I get that call, I can, curse your name. Gotcha. Okay, well, thanks for going, everybody, in the time. It's a lot, several days out of the normal time. So appreciate everybody for making that happen. And then just to comment on a couple dates coming up, we have a work session December 7th, which is going to be primarily devoted to superintendent evaluation. And then our regular school board meeting has been rescheduled to the 14th from, I think, Christmas break week, the week after that. So make that change in your calendar. And then into January, so we have January 4th and the 18th flowing forward. So, all right.
Hey, Alan,
Yes.
I will be able to be at the December 7th one, but on the 14th, I have my second surgery, so I won't be able to be at that
Oh,
one.
darn. Should we reschedule again for your surgery? Okay, thanks. Ellen.
No, you guys don't have to reschedule. I know it's crazy time of the year.
Yeah, there's a pretty narrow day or window of days, if I recall, in December.
Yep. It's okay. I just wanted to let you know ahead of time so I don't forget, because
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
still recovering from the first surgery. So, all right, thanks.
All right. Unless there's anything else, I think we'll go ahead and adjourn our regular session here tonight. We have a executive session for the board only in a few minutes, but other than that, thank you all for your time and attention. So have a good evening.